Let's go. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Happy Monday. It's Money Consciousness Monday, and I want to let you guys know. So, my plan for the next couple episodes, right? I want to really talk again about Think and Grow Rich, because this book has had a huge impact on my life, and so I'm going to be, going through the principles again. Now, with that being said, right, we're going to start with number 1 today, right? The first principle from Think and Grow Rich is a burning desire, right? Starting with that burning desire for more wealth. And I think this is going to be a great conversation to have. So, a couple of things that I'm going to be touching on today. I'm going to touch on 3 major points that I learned from this book. And I'm not going to be necessarily reading the book. I'm going to be just kind of sharing some of the things I learned from this. But the 3 major points that I want to touch on today is how to be definite in what you want. And then number 2, right, how do you maintain that state of mind known as a burning desire, right? How do you maintain it? And then number 3, right, how do you start to begin to develop a money consciousness, right? Because it's all in awareness. So those are going to be the three main topics of today. Let's get right into it. I'm super stoked. I hope everyone is doing phenomenal. Let's go, right? So number 1, right? How do you become definite in what you want, right? There's a couple of ways, but specifically, right, pertaining to Think and Grow Rich, right? There's literally laid out for you instructions for writing down your goals. And the first step for you to begin really making what you want become real is to write it down, right? Is to write down your goals. Okay, now I want you to think about this for a second, right? You have this idea in your head, and the whole point of Think and Grow Rich is to turn this idea that's in your head into the physical counterpart, right? The physical counterpart, right? You want it to become a reality in the world. Right, so the first step literally is to write it down, right? Make a goal card and write down your goal on it. And this is important because, the moment that you write it down, it immediately goes from an intangible form of energy to a physical thing, right? This goal card, even though, it's just a tiny card, right? Most people can't really see the vision that I have, just what's in writing on this thing, right? Every time I touch it, it triggers, that idea in my head, right? It is officially become real the moment that you write it down. Now, additionally, right, the question is, right, okay, so how do I figure out what to write down? How do I become definite in what I want? Well, that's going to require some thinking. And in order to really think about it, you have to start literally asking the question. I know this is so simple, but have you been doing it, right? What do I truly want? And get specific about it, right? I've done a couple of things in my life when I was getting mentored, right? Where I actually wrote down like 1,000-word story of what I wanted for different areas of my life, right? I got, really descriptive about it, seriously, and really definite about it as well, right? It's not about doing certain things. It's about doing things in a certain way. Right? Are you writing down what you want in a state of mind of, oh, this isn't possible? Or are you writing it down like, no, this is possible, right? I want it and I'm going to go get it, right? It really comes down to this one idea, and that is your state of mind, right? The mental attitude that you have towards your goal will determine whether you actually take action on it or not, right? So having that state of mind of definiteness of purpose, having that state of mind of intention, right? That's going to help you take the action on the goal that you wrote down, right? So that's the starting point, at least, to becoming definite in what you want. Now, secondly, right, the second major point is how do we maintain that state of mind known as a burning desire? Because, I'm sure a lot of us have been there where we wished for riches, where we hoped for riches. Maybe we had that feeling of a desire in our chest to get some more money, but we didn't maintain it. It came and it went, right? How do we maintain that state of mind known as a burning desire? And in the book, in the first chapter of Think and Grow Rich, right, Napoleon Hill talks about a couple of stories where some individuals, they had this burning desire, and one of them was the one guy, I'll remember his name in a second, right? I was working with Thomas Edison, right? And he was basically like apprentice of Thomas Edison, and he had a burning desire to become Thomas Edison's business partner, right? And what he did was, in order to do that, he had to cut off all forms of retreat, all forms of failure, or all forms of giving up, right? It was like, this is the way that it's going to be, where I'm going to move up this ladder no matter what it takes. And so for a couple of years, he just worked in the Edison wheel, right? Just part of like Edison's business empire, not really making his headway, but he had a burning desire. He was obsessed with the idea to become business partners with Thomas Edison. And he said that there's no other option, where I'm going to do this. And it was through that no other option mentality that he developed that persistent in that state of mind known as a burning desire, right? And then a couple of years later, he ended up becoming Thomas Edison's main business partner. I apologize, I forgot the name of the individual, but it was really cool, right? Really cool story. And then additionally, there's another story that I love to tell that really emphasizes this idea of burning the ships, right? All forms of retreat are going to go. And this story comes from this group of like explorers, let's just say, right? They're traveling, right? They're crossing the ocean. There's like, let's say there's 100 men on the boat, and they're gonna go explore, find this new island. And when they arrive to the island, they find out that there is 1,000 natives living on that island, ready to fight, ready to go to war to protect their land, right? So the general pulls onto the beach, right? He's got his 100 men. They're clearly outnumbered 10 to 1, right? It's not looking great for them. And the general tells his men that, turn around, men. And when the men turned around, they saw that their ships were actually being burned, right? There was smoke going up in the air, right? The ships were being burned. And the general said to them, listen, as you can see, we burned all the ships. We burned all forms of retreat. And that only leaves us one option. We will either take over the land or we will perish. We will either win or perish, right? And it is that state of mind where you burn all forms of retreat, right? There's no going back. Right, that state of mind that these men had allowed them to defeat all the natives, even though they were outnumbered 10 to 1, and take over the land. Right, so it's like, yeah, sometimes we have that desire, but then it's like, okay, let's just go back to the old ways, right? Maybe, that was a silly idea that I had. Right, but in order to maintain that state of mind known as a burning desire, you have to be willing to commit to your goal and burn all forms of retreat. There can be no other way to go. You have to be like, this is my definite major purpose, and I'm going to do whatever it takes to get there. So it's that state of mind, and that's how you really maintain it. It really comes down to burning all the ships, burning all forms of retreat. You are going for it. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's only a matter of time. So that's number 2, right? How do you maintain that state of mind known as a burning desire? Now, the third point that I would love to touch on is how do we start to begin to develop a money consciousness? Right? How do we begin to develop a money consciousness? And I think this is really essential because, most people don't realize that right under their noses, there are so many great opportunities to earn extra income right on their phones. The only challenge is that we're not quite aware of them, or we're not quite aware of the power that we have to really earn an income right from our phones, right from, wherever we are. So developing a money consciousness is key. Like, where you're looking out for opportunities, you're looking out for new ways to basically advance especially in the finance world, right? And so I think developing a money consciousness, at least for me, it came down to a couple of things, right? It was the repetition of the ideas in Think and Grow Rich that really allowed me to become obsessed with my goal, right? I talked a little bit about writing your goal down on a goal card. Now, the idea here is we want to plant this goal into our minds, right? I want this goal planted into my subconscious mind so that at the end of the day, I actually believe it. Because Napoleon Hill says this, right? If you don't believe it, if you don't believe in your goal or you believe that it's absolutely achievable, right? You're not going to follow through on it. You're not going to go all in on it. And check out this quote. I thought this stood out to me, right? Napoleon Hill said this: there is a difference between wishing for a thing and being ready to receive it. No one is ready for a thing until he believes he can acquire it. The state of mind must be belief, not mere hope or wish. Open-mindedness is essential for belief. Closed minds do not inspire faith, courage, and belief. Right? It really comes down to like the first step, right? Developing that money consciousness. Do you believe in yourself? Right? Because if you don't believe that you have the capability to go out there and achieve it, right? How do you expect others to believe in you, right? How do you expect others to believe in your vision, right? And I think, I'm going to go on a tangent for a moment, right? But I think additionally, right, having self-discipline, knowing that, I have gone through many different times in my life where I committed to what I was saying, right? And it was through my own self-discipline that I'm able to start developing that belief, to developing that confidence that I can go for the dream, right? I know we're talking about, right, how do you develop a money consciousness, but, the first step is you got to start believing it. And, maybe you're not yet at that point where you believe your goals. Like, the idea here is, right, we want to set in like huge C-type goals, right? We want to fantasize about the dream life that we want. We want to fantasize about the definite thing that we want. And then we have to start to begin to believe it, right? So the idea here is we got to plant this goal into our subconscious minds. And there's this one great author. Actually, as a matter of fact, all great authors talk about this. All great books talk about this. But they say that the feeling is the secret. Right? The feeling is the secret. If you can feel it already done, right? I'm talking about a state of mind known as faith, right? And I'm going to define faith as the feeling that it is already done. I hope I can get this clear, right? That feeling that it is already done, that your goal is already done. It's just a matter of time before you go finally have it come, right? That is where eventually you'll begin to believe it, right? We want to, every time that I'm reading my goal, right? I don't just read, oh man, I'm so happy and grateful now that I'm earning X amount of dollars a month in residual income on or before this date, right? Reading it bland is not gonna plant this idea in your mind, right? You want to be enthusiastic as hell about your goal, right? You want to be like, I am so happy and grateful now that I'm earning X dollars a month in residual income on or before X date, right? It's like mixing that feeling and really seeing in your mind that it is already done, right? That, my friends, is how you begin to plant the goal into your mind. And additionally, just like besides planning the goal, I think it's also that repetition, right? The repetition, right? Every single morning when I wake up at 5 a.m. every morning and I'm writing down my C-type goals of exactly what I want over and over every single day, right? And it is like the repetition that you are literally physically writing it out, that is literally coding that goal into your brain so that you begin to develop a money consciousness to go out there and look for it, right? Because, let's face it, our brains are one of the most powerful supercomputers that the world has ever known, and that the world will ever known, right? And it's a matter of, okay, can we program this properly to go out there and achieve our goals, right? So it's through that repetition, right? They say that repetition is the mother of skill. You're going to hear me a lot on these lives begin to repeat myself because the ideas are still the same, right? These are the same ideas that were written by Napoleon Hill in 1938, right? It's just a matter of truly understanding them. And in order to understand them, you're going to need to repeat it, right? So really the idea to plant the goal into your subconscious mind is through repetition and mixing emotion with it, right? Two things I really hope you can take away. Repetition and emotion, right? Those are the secret to planting the goal into your subconscious mind. Okay? Now, I'm going to share one last idea on how to develop a money consciousness, right? And the most important part is that you actually get started, right? When you actually go out there and maybe you go on a business venture, maybe you try to start your business, right? I was really blessed that I got started in the business world when I was 19 years old. And I'll tell you what, when I went through a major temporary defeat, it made me, have a motive to begin thinking, right? I was a drifter. Even though I had a business, even though I was knocking on doors, doing the marketing, doing the selling, doing the whole business, right, following my manager, right, I was still not necessarily thinking. I was kind of coasting through the business, right? And it was through that temporary defeat that I realized how important it was to step up my thinking, to step up my game. However, regardless of the temporary defeat, right, just getting started on that first business venture has allowed me to become more confident when opportunities would come my way. Hey there, Sienna. Right, when opportunities would come my way, right, just by the fact that I got started, where I began to develop this money consciousness and start seeing, different areas where, there is a chance to earn money besides just working the job or working the 9 to 5, right? So I think especially when it comes to developing a money consciousness, right, number one, get started. And then additionally, when temporary defeat comes, right, as it came for every successful individual has at one point or another experienced temporary defeat, right, looking for that seed of an equivalent advantage, right? That's what Napoleon Hill says, right? Every failure comes with it the seed of an equivalent advantage. Right, so being able to look out for that seed, right? It's not gonna come to you right away, right? The advantage isn't gonna come right away, but there's that tiny little seed that you can look out for that's gonna help you out, right? And the idea here, right, is like, especially with Think and Grow Rich, if you are following the principles of being persistent and looking for the lessons, right? That's when all of a sudden you're gonna realize, man, like, I see where I went wrong, right? I see where, maybe I was lacking in this one department of my thinking. And then, you keep going, right? You keep that persistence, you keep going, and all of a sudden, right, the answers that you need are going to show up, right? The results that you want are going to start to show up because you kept going, right? Developing that money consciousness is all about awareness. And right, it's super important to just at least, number one, get started, right? Get the ball rolling, because it's going to, right, there's no individual that became an overnight success, that had it right away, right? Even for me, when I started out selling and just knocking on doors, right, I actually sounded like a robot. I could not speak in front of people, but it was through knocking on thousands of doors that I began to start understanding the pitch, start understanding tonality, start being able to actually look someone in the eyes and convey to them like enthusiasm about what I'm selling them. Right, so it's through like just the repetition. I got started and I kept going ever since. And that's going to be absolutely essential for you to develop a money consciousness, because my mentor says that everything that you want is as close as your skin. And, it took me a while to really think about that idea, right? What do you mean everything I want is as close as my skin? But the truth is, right, it's all about being aware. Right, we have the ability with our phones today to do something really impactful in this world. Right, it's literally at our fingertips. Right, even if I don't understand that it's as close to my skin, it's at our fingertips. Right, we can do something so incredible with our phones alone. Right, we just got to become aware. We got to have that money consciousness, and it really comes down to applying the principles laid out in Think and Grow Rich, and so many other great books have it too. Right, for me, Think and Grow Rich was just the one that really clicked for me. Okay, so that was the conversation today. I touched on a couple of things, including, right, how do you become super definite about what you want? And then additionally, right, how do you maintain that state of mind known as a burning desire? Because, we've all been there where we had that feeling in our chest, right? We had that feeling of an obsession, of a goal, of a burning desire, but then it fades. And the reason that it fades is because we didn't burn all the ships, right? We let ourselves retreat to what we already knew how to do. And it's not until you finally decide, I'm going to go all in on this, that there's no going back, right? That's when you maintain that state of mind known as a burning desire. And then finally, I talked about how do we start to develop a money consciousness. So I hope that I was able to convey these ideas to you very well. I appreciate you all for watching. I will leave you with this until we meet again in time and space. Bye everybody for now. I'll see you all tomorrow, same time, same channel. Let's go.